Welcome to the Jonathan Benaya podcast. On today's episode, we'll spend the next 45 minutes just listening to each other, breathing in and out. No, I'm just kidding about that. We are talking about travel writing as a passion, but also travel writing as a possible profession for those looking for opportunities, be it a side gig or want to take this thing on as a full-time gig. As one who's been writing for at least 10 years, I thought I'd jump onto the podcast today to help aspiring travel writers turn their passion for travel into a possible career. So today's topic is going to be how to become a travel writer. If you've always dreamed of turning your love of travel into a career, then becoming a travel writer might just be the perfect fit for you. I'll try to keep today's episode short and mainly focus on the question of where do you start? And I'll be sharing 6 foundational tips that have worked for me. So let's just call this episode the Travel Writer's Basic Toolkit. I say basic because there's only a little bit that we can share in less than 40 minutes. So yes, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll have this and more after the short break. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Jonathan Benaya podcast, a show that is wild, very wild. We try to put out a new episode every Sunday with discussions ranging around how to make the natural world a better place, creating awesome images, telling stories with words, wildlife films and photography, with occasional musings on sound and tech. I do share a lot of my own personal experiences, and from time to time, I'll have 1 or 2 guests on the podcast to share some insightful discussions. If you are fascinated about the natural world, especially natural history films and photography, environmental conservation, and African travel at large, this podcast will have you in a spin. So thank you so much for tuning in and enjoy your time here. Alright guys, welcome back to the Jonathan Benaya podcast, where we talk about the earth, images, words, wildlife films and photography, tourism and travel, and occasionally music. Thank you all for the birthday wishes. Thursday was my birthday, and yes, like every other year, I feel older and wiser. I'm grateful for family, I'm grateful for friends, grateful for work, including people like yourself tuned in today. But most importantly, grateful for life. So I do run a travel blog, although I've not been writing for that for at least a year or so, due to a few reasons, largely a super busy schedule. A lot of my recent writing has been prioritizing publications and client work. But many a time I'm asked how I'm able to write so well for travel. And this is what inspires today's pod. Well, for me, it almost feels like a sixth sense, and I often tell people that it comes naturally, but perhaps that's not entirely the case. When I look back to where things could have begun, I guess it's a story of me building up what you'd call muscle memory from so many years of reading, so many years of researching, networking, but most importantly, many, many years of writing. The many years of reading, the many years of writing have subconsciously made this a lot easier for me. So I guess let me just start off with a short story of how my travel writing journey could have begun. And indeed, this will be the short version because, as I said, we only have 40 minutes or less to share today. I rewind the clock back to when I was about 5 or 6 years to give this a good enough context. Now, you know how as kids, when we were growing up, we all kind of aspired to be something when we grew up. I'm not sure if kids of this day and age really do have such aspirations anymore with all these distractions they have with TikTok, social media, blah, blah, blah. Well, for me, growing up, it was always something to do with the arts. Apart from this one time when I kind of wandered off into an aspiration to be in the science, if I could call it the space of sciences. And I'll come back to the discussion on how I kind of wandered off into the sciences in a bit. Quite surprisingly, my first dream was to become a pastor or call it a preacher. But I guess it's not really a surprise because I grew up in a Christian home and my parents were active church ministers. As I grew up, my old folks would obviously get me to study the Bible, like it is in many Christian homes. And I would soon, over the years, be encouraged to feature in readings during the Sunday service. Yeah, you know that contemporary moment in the service where someone is invited to read the sermon scripture? That was me on several Sundays. But I think the highest assignment that I got asked to perform was preaching, or call it offering a sermon. I kid you not, through my life growing up in church, I preached at least 10 sermons in the Sunday school, or call it the children's church section, as well as 3 or 4 sermons in the main church. And quite interestingly, the reviews weren't bad at all in the main church. People enjoyed my sermons. Or was it because I was the minister's kid and the congregation was just inclined to say nice things or call them sweet nothings? What I do remember, though, is the time that I'd spent preparing. I think for me, for a long time, I've always felt it important to offer value. So even before my amateur sermons, I'd spend the week or even weeks reading, writing, practicing my talking skills in front of the mirror, memorizing my jokes, and rehearsing my stories. And perhaps that is what translated into a good sermon on a Sunday, a sermon that the churchgoers would say was worth listening to. But slowly, the dream of becoming a pastor was replaced with my only scientific dream, if I could call it so. For the record, I still go to church and I serve when it is practically possible, but we aren't doing any sermons anytime soon. So around primary 6 or 7, I'd wanted to become a pilot for reasons I won't get into, but that dream was perhaps my shortest lived. I guess the universe has its own way of showing you the difference between the ideal world versus the real world. The ideal world for me had me wanting to be a pilot. The real world, on the other end, showed me that this dream was far-fetched, given my dislike for things like algebra and mathematics, and sciences at large. They weren't my best subjects at school. So let's fast forward to high school and university. Now, in Uganda, when you leave high school, we call it secondary school here, your grades kind of box you in and dictate what you must do at the university. And it seems like a writing on the wall defining what you will become eventually, which for me sounds like a flawed education system that mass produces graduates to become almost nothing. But that will be a discussion for another day. At least that's what the teachers seemed to cram. Through my high school, I loved and did exceptionally well in the arts. I was a top performer in subjects like composition writing, or as it's professionally called, essay writing. I enjoyed history. I loved geography. Geography and history were like bread and butter to me. Surprisingly, I was not necessarily a fan of literature. I just found it boring. And not to sound sexist, but at school it was made to seem like a feminine subject. But don't get me wrong, I loved to read and I still do to this day. I always loved to read newspapers, I enjoyed magazines, I enjoyed articles, encyclopedias, journals, and the Bible as well kept me busy. For Gen Z kids, or call them the kids born in the 2000s, you might not know, but it was in our school time as millennials that computer classes pretty much became a thing. My favorite thing to do in the computer lab, aside from, of course, playing FIFA like any other boy, was going through. There was this digital encyclopedia. I can't really remember what particular name it was called, but it seemed to be a very well-developed program that was very informative. And I still feel to this day that it was well ahead of its time. I learned a great deal from that encyclopedia, the digital encyclopedia. Now, it was in my time in high school that I believed I wanted to do something in the arts, particularly either something to do with law or something in communication. I didn't do law at the university, neither did I take on a direct program on journalism and mass communication. I went on to do and excel in a Bachelor's of Tourism at Makerere University, which fortunately did cover a bit of law in there and travel law and a lot of communication, several other units, which if you ask me, I'd never seen myself do a tourism course. But as I like to say, the universe has its way of aligning. I have, however, attended several communication-related postgraduate trainings and certificates here and there, and I still enjoy studying the law. I do hold an online certificate from Harvard on justice and law, which I passed with straight A's. I must brag a bit. But where does all this history and this story I'm trying to tell tie into this thing called travel writing? That have for long been commended for. Many people say writing and creating content for travel is something I was made for. My first practical experience after the university was doing a volunteering role at a small and medium-sized safari company in Uganda. I'll not throw around any names, but this is where I got my very first real-life trial at writing tourism pieces. In my first week at the farm, my bosses, I guess, were very much impressed by my command of the English language, my excellent skills in writing, but more importantly, how effortlessly I'd narrate engaging stories with a pen. Quickly, my assignment became writing daily travel pieces for their website, and by my second week, some of these were making it into one of the country's main daily newspapers, which was a feeling of satisfaction for someone fresh from the university. Obviously, I was doing a lot of research, a whole lot of reading, and definitely lots and lots of writing. But I think it was at my second job, or call it the job at which I earned my first salary in the tourism space, that I really felt this thing kind of come alive. This was a leading African travel brand, definitely one of the finest out there, travel. And I really appreciate that I got to experience this at the big stage. But also while I was here, I got to really take my first real deep travel experiences and really experience the healing power of the natural world. At this company, I served in many roles, ranging from safari planning, call it being a tour consultant. I did lodge operations, administration work, legal work. I did fleet management. I wrote several lobby documents because my boss at the time was practically involved in the tourism space as a lobbyist for the sector, for the private sector. It was busy, it was very demanding, but it taught me a lot of what I know today. And when we go to travel as staff, or we call them these familiarization trips, the bug beat, and boy did it bite hard. The blog went up shortly after. It started out as a Facebook page and evolved into a dedicated domain, which is to this day ugandantourist.com. Now, there's a longer version of the story, which I'll not get into because obviously you came here for some tips. Now, these for me are simply things that I've learned from doing and not necessarily too much from training. These are practical things I have seen work for me, and I'm glad to share a few nuggets here and there with you. If you are passionate about both travel and writing, then becoming a travel writer might be the perfect side gig or even a long-term career for you. But as I did mention in the introduction, where do you start? We want to answer that question of where do you start? Now, I know that almost every creative at some point along their journey yearns for that viral moment where your work spreads like a wildfire, people land on it, that viral effect. People begin to reach out, you get millions of followers. And this translates into brands paying you, brands reaching out to pay for you to influence. And quickly the rest becomes history. Well, unfortunately, that's not a true picture, and it's not the case for everyone. And many a time, it's not the best thing for someone starting out. Because if that viral moment comes before you've had your foundations built strong enough, you might wither so quickly. So I'm not here to share a shortcut. I'm here to share a method that you can follow to not only create winning pieces, but also build an audience that engages with your content, and also be able to build a resource for part-time income, or even in the long term, take it on as a full-time job. Yeah, so I think let's dive right into these 6 tips I've got today for aspiring travel writers. And for those already in this space, I guess this might be some sort of refresher course. All right, let's get right in. Tip number 1 would be to hone your writing skills. It's important to have a solid foundation in writing as a travel writer. This means honing your skills and continually working to improve your craft. It also means having a unique voice and perspective that sets you apart from other writers. It's essential to have strong writing skills in order to effectively convey your experiences and observations to the reader. As a travel writer, you'll need to be able to describe places, people, experiences in a way that is engaging and informative, that requires a high level of writing proficiency. I did mention that I'll not be sharing any shortcuts, but let me just give you a quick cheat code that seems to work for me. I like to use the 5 senses of man as a quick cheat code in my writing. When I'm writing, I always want my piece to help my reader visualize the destination. I want them to almost smell the destination. I want them to almost taste the foods in the destination. I want them to almost feel their hairs, the hairs on their arms, almost like a tingling sensation, or as if they've been physically touched. And finally, I want them to almost hear the sounds of a destination come alive when I write. Yeah, so if your piece respects those foundational truths, then you are set for a good start. We're talking about the sense of sight, the sense of smell, the sense of taste, the sense of touch, of the ability to feel, and then the sense of being able to hear. If your piece appeals to those senses, it's a lot more engaging and a lot more relatable. You're welcome. Now let's just go back to the discussion of having strong writing skills and how this can help you stand out in a crowd. With so many people writing about travel these days, it's important to have a unique voice and perspective that kind of sets your writing apart from everyone else. This can help you attract readers and get you noticed by potential clients or even publishers. I strongly believe that writing skills, rather call them strong writing skills, can help you effectively communicate your ideas and even make pitches to other, or maybe collaborate with other notable writers, or even pitch to editors and clients. The better your writing skills are, the more likely you are able to sell your ideas and even get your work published. One way to hone your writing skills is to read a wide variety of travel pieces. This could include things like magazines, maybe articles, blog posts, as well as guidebooks. This will help you get a sense of the different writing styles or different styles and approaches to travel writing, and it also gives you ideas for your own writing. Some of the most notable travel magazines or travel websites that you might want to interest yourself in reading or following include, I enjoy the Lonely Planet. I do love the Brat Guides. There's one called Condé Nast Traveler, which is amazing. Obviously, you have the Forbes Travel Magazine, an amazing magazine as well. You have National Geographic Travel, excellent. You have one called, it's a North American-based travel website called Travel and Leisure, or Travel Plus Leisure. And then finally, for now, there's one called Rough Guides. Now, you must know that old statement that goes that you're only as good as what you know. And a lot of what we know comes from our interaction with information. If you set yourself on a platform with another writer who reads and yourself who does not read, I must tell you might be like on 2 different planets when it comes to things like perspective on the world. Someone who writes and reads a lot will be able to execute a lot much better than someone who just swings it, I believe. Anyway, let's just look at a few other ways in which you can hone your writing skills. So reading is one. The other thing that I think you could do is practice regularly. The more you write, the better you become. It's important to set aside time, if possible, every day, even if it's just for a few minutes, to do a bit of writing. The other way to hone your writing skills is to experiment with different styles and techniques. You want to try writing in different styles and using different techniques because this will help you find what works best for you. The other way in which you can hone your writing skills is to share your work with others so that they can provide feedback. It's very important to get feedback because this can help you identify areas for improvement, but also it can give you a fresh perspective on your own work. Another way in which you can hone your writing skills is just to learn the rules of the game. You've got to familiarize yourself with the basic rules of things like grammar and punctuation, as well as the guidelines of writing clear, concise, and compelling pieces. I must tell you that there's nothing as off-putting for a reader as an article lacking in grammar and proper punctuation. And maybe the other way in which you can hone your writing skills is to learn from your mistakes. When you receive feedback, it's important to take it to heart and use it to improve your writing. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I know that sounds like a buzzword, and I don't want to sound like a motivational speaker, but mistakes are a natural part of the learning process, so don't be afraid to make them. Then I think just maybe finally for now, another way in which you can hone your writing skills is just to find your voice, which is very important. You've got to find your voice. You've got to develop a unique voice and style of writing as a travel writer. You just can't become a me too or just be like everyone else. You've got to have a unique style of writing because this will make your writing stand out and help you connect with a unique audience. And this is what we all want. We want to build a unique audience of people that read and engage with our content. All right, now let's move on to tip number 2. In addition to honing your writing skills, it's important to have a strong understanding of the travel industry. This means staying up to date on current trends and destinations, as well as just having a familiarity with different types of travel accommodations, different types of travel attractions, different activities in the destinations. I feel like understanding the travel industry makes you more informed and knowledgeable about the places you're writing about, and this can help you provide more accurate and helpful information to your readers, which is a crucial part for building a community or building trust and credibility as a writer. I also strongly believe that when you have a better understanding of the travel industry, it will help you to better comprehend the needs and interests of your readers, which can make your writing more targeted, more impactful, and even more engaging and relatable. So basically what I'm trying to say is that by staying up to date on industry trends and developments, you can ensure that your writing remains relevant and valuable for your audience. Now, tip number 3 is you've got to travel. Yes, it can be expensive. Yes, it's fun, but it's perhaps often underestimated. And it's perhaps even more important for those who are in this travel writing thing for the long haul. It's important to invest in yourself because investing in yourself is going to be the best bet. And by investing in yourself, you've got to get out, spread your wings, and travel. Fortunately, there is always an option for every budget. So the discussion on being expensive is relative, but it might often be an excuse for some people. Oftentimes, folks who say it's too expensive are the kind who only want to sleep in the luxury properties. But when you do your research, especially when you're just starting out on a tight budget, a big bed is a lot less important than the experiences. The rule of thumb that I've come to learn over the years is to spend less on the bed and more on the activities and attractions, because that's where the stories are told and that's where the stories are really more impactful. Unless, of course, if the lodge is what you're writing about or if they've hired you to write about them specifically. So why is it so important for a travel writer to travel, or basically anyone hoping for a career in the tourism industry. Now, anyone that works in the tourism space, or call it the travel industry, will tell you that it's a lot easier to sell an experience or even tell a story well if you've gained that first-hand experience of the place and the experiences that you're writing about or speaking about. This helps in accurately describing the sights, sounds, and feelings of being in a particular location, which is essential for creating engaging and authentic travel content. Traveling also helps a travel writer with the opportunity to meet and interact with the locals, learn about so many different cultures, and gather unique, interesting stories and insights that they can then share with the reader. I also believe that traveling will also allow a travel writer to broaden their horizons and gain a deeper understanding of the world, which can then inspire new ideas and basically give you better perspectives for the pieces that you're writing. All right, let's now move on to tip number 4, and this is you've got to publish. You have got to start. Now that's become a buzzword by all established creatives. When they are asked to share some advice, most of them will definitely have this as a point. You have to start. You have to start. I think it's also something that entrepreneurs also use when they're inspiring people. You've got to start somewhere. But the truth in it is that you have to start. And this is often taken lightly, but it's very important. You've got to start. I always tell people that your CV or your best work as a writer or a creative will always be the work that you put out, not the work that remains on the notepad, or not the work that remains in the drafts of your notes app on your phone. Your best work is the work that people have received and interacted on. Your best work is the work that you've published. Now, don't get me wrong, at whatever stage of development you are at as a writer, you always want to do your best. You always want to put out your best work. But what I'm trying to say is we must begin somewhere. Now, I must confess that I'm a stickler for perfect things, and I must say, the biggest critic for my work. And it's still something that I grapple with, but this can be an enemy of progress, especially when you are just starting out. This can leave you in a state of procrastination, which we all know is just not good for any career. But maybe the point that I'm trying to develop is that, like myself, many writers and creatives at large will tell you that if they waited till the time was right, until their work was perfect, perhaps they'd still be waiting till this day. And perhaps you wouldn't know them either, or you wouldn't know me if we didn't start. We all begin somewhere, and we are on a continuous journey to be better or to improve along the way. The key thing is to start. The key thing is to publish your work and share it with the world, because it's only through that you're able to find out if it is something that people appreciate, or if it is something that you need to improve on, or something that will work for you. So I repeat, there's only one way to find out, and that's to publish your work. But how do you get your work out there? Well, obviously, one way is by starting a travel blog or a website where you can share your writing experiences with a wider audience. And you can even just start out with publishing using the free options available. There are several blog sites that allow travel writers to publish their work for free. Some examples include WordPress.com, which is a popular blogging platform that allows users to create a blog for free and publish their own content on there. There's another one called Medium, just as you hear it, Medium, which is a publishing platform as well, that will allow you as a writer to create and publish your articles free of charge. There's one called Tumblr, which is Tumbler. That's Tumbler. Tumblr is a micro blogging platform that allows users to create a blog and publish short articles and even other media. Then there's one called Blogger, which is, I guess, owned by Google. As you all know, Google is the biggest search engine. Blogger will allow you as well to publish a blog for free. And then maybe finally for now, there is one called Squarespace, which if you watch a lot of YouTube, you must have seen their adverts one way or another. Squarespace is a website building platform that offers a variety of templates and features for creating a professional looking website, or in our case, a travel blog. And they have so many templates which you can choose from, which makes your work so easy. It's one of the easiest ways to build a blog. Or maybe there's also one called Wix.com as well that you could look at. Well, while there's a cost associated with Squarespace and Wix, they do offer a free trial period that will allow you to test out the program before committing to a paid subscription. Perhaps let me also add that it's important to note that while these platforms will allow a travel writer to publish their work for free, they may have limitations on the type of content that can be published, and they also kind of limit the control that the writer has over the design and also the functionality of the blog. You might also realize that some platforms may also place adverts, or call them ads, on the blogs you write, which definitely generates revenue for the platform, but may not be desirable for you, the writer. But that's purely because they are offering a free service and they need to make ends meet. Yeah, so starting a travel blog is one, but another way to get your work published is through pitching your ideas to travel publications and websites. This means coming up with unique and interesting story ideas and then pitching them to editors of magazines, editors of newspapers, travel websites, and the like. One thing I've learned is that it's important, though, to do your research and make sure that you tailor your pitches to be specific to specific publications. It doesn't make sense to write a single pitch and just blast it to several editors, because different publications have different styles of writing, different standards, different criteria, and many of them may even lay those out for you on their website. So it's worth doing some research to make sure that your pitch, when it's sent, it's targeted. It's like being out in the battlefield. You want your bullet to be targeted and hit right on the target. Now, I've had my work published in travel magazines here and beyond our borders, and I've also collaborated on projects with other notable travel writers around the globe, because first of all, I took a bet on myself, and I took the initiative to reach out. And still to this day, I still find this to work. I still pitch, I still reach out to fellow creatives, I still reach out to publications. Now, of course, along the way, I've been fortunate to get mentions in some notable publications like the Forbes Travel Magazine, National Geographic. I've had folks from the Natural History Museum in the UK email me, as well as notable publishers like the Luxury Travel Magazine have reached out for collaborations as well. But I don't think this is entirely on the basis of coincidence. It's I believe, a result of many years of working hard at it. I live by the statement that a dream is valid. If you set your heart and mind to it, it's possible to achieve it. I have seen several other benefits of pitching my work to publishers, including the opportunity to reach a wider audience. When I get published in magazines, more people read the work, and actually more notable, more serious readers get to find out my work when they read these big publications. So what we're basically saying is that while starting a travel blog or website can be a great way to share your writing and your experiences with others, getting your work published in established travel publications or websites will be a great way to reach a larger platform and have your work reach more people. And maybe I should also add that you can take it slow. You can go step by step. You could start out with pitching your work to local publications and steadily grow your pitch to stretch into the region. And then you can hit and target the big boys at the global stage. Pitching your work to publishers also gives you the opportunity to be paid for your writing, which is the fun bit. And that can be a key part of making a career as a travel writer. Many publications and websites pay for travel writing, and getting your work published can help you generate income and potentially turn your passion for travel into a full-time career. Now, maybe just finally, pitching your work to publishers is also a great way to get feedback on your writing, and it also helps build relationships with industry leaders or industry professionals. When you pitch your ideas to editors and work with them to develop and refine your writing, you are able to gain a lot more valuable experience and insight that can then help you to improve your craft and also further your career. So that's tip number 4. Or perhaps let me also just lightly touch on the frequency of how often should you publish. I get that asked quite a lot, and I guess I can just quickly respond to that here. Obviously, it's more professional to keep a consistent flow of content. That's mainly to set a rhythm within your community of readers and basically to whet their appetite on what to expect next. And this is good for someone who is starting out. But the more I create for big brands, the more I get the feeling that there is no set frequency for how often a travel writer should publish. I strongly believe that it depends on the individual writer and the demands of the job or that person's personal goals. Some travel writers may publish frequently, maybe producing several articles or blog posts per week or even per day. I've seen people who write articles per day, while others may publish less frequently, producing 1 or 2 pieces per month or even 1 or 2 pieces per year. The frequency or how often you publish may depend on the type of content that you are producing, but also the platform that you are using to publish that work, and maybe also the amount of time and resources that you need that must be available for you to write and research for that work. Now let's just take an example of a travel writer who's working as a full-time journalist for a travel magazine or a newspaper. They may be expected to produce multiple articles each and every month, while a travel blogger who is also working a 9 to 5 or call it a full-time job may only have limited time to produce 1 or 2 blogs per week or per month. Ultimately, regardless of whether you publish every day or every week or every month or every year, what I feel like is the most important thing for a travel writer is to produce high quality content that engages and informs the reader at that particular moment. Whether that means publishing frequently or it means publishing less often, I feel like that will depend on the individual writer's goals and also what circumstances they are in. All right, let's move on to tip number 5, and this is to enjoy and make the best use of digital. We'll call it the best use of the digital era. Now, I always say that despite the many flaws that have come with the innovations in the digital world, be it innovations in social media, computers, innovations in mobile phones, cameras as well, talk about the internet, etc. All these innovations have been, I feel, one of the biggest leveler, allowing people from all across the globe to pretty much compete at an almost fair ground. We call it, they've kind of globalized the world into a small village that everyone can today compete for eyeballs. And you could almost say it's almost a fair and free opportunity for all. Today, when you write your article and publish it, it may reach people all over the globe. What a time to be alive as travel writers or just general creatives. Now, as I talk about the need to capitalize on the digital era, that reminds me of a question that I get quite a bit. It's a question on social media. I do also get it when I'm invited to do some talks at workshops and trainings, digital marketing workshops and trainings. And that's the question of which social media platforms make sense for a travel writer. Now, this is often a hard question to respond to, but some social media platforms that you might want to look into is Twitter. Twitter is a great platform for travel writers to share short updates, links to articles and photos, and also engage with your followers in real time. The other one is Instagram. Instagram is a visual platform that is perfect for travel writers to share some stunning photos and short videos, which we call Reels. But also, you can also go live from time to time for a raw experience. Maybe do a Q&A on a live session, and this is great for building engagement and following. Then obviously Facebook. You can't leave Facebook, the biggest social media platform. Facebook is a versatile platform that allows travel writers to share a variety of content, and this could be, you could publish straight to Facebook and write an article, drop it in the Facebook feed, add some photos and videos. It's also a great platform for building a community of followers, and you could maybe start a readers group. Unfortunately, Facebook is still banned in Uganda, but it's still one of the biggest social platforms out there, and it's definitely one worth using as a travel writer or a creative as a whole. And then I also see people use Pinterest. I am not active on Pinterest. Pinterest is a visual platform that is good for travel writers to also share some photos and also create boards around specific travel themes. So that could be something that you might want to explore as well. And then I do like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is more of a professional social network. And this is a great way to find other travel writers. It's also a great way to share your articles, and also a great way to interact and connect with industry leaders and industry professionals. So definitely make sure to set up a LinkedIn profile. Obviously, there is no harm in repurposing some of your content into video form to feed this ever-hungry, or call it the ever-growing desire for video content on platforms like TikTok and YouTube, because that can be another opportunity to open up doors and avenues for you to monetize in the future or be seen generally. But a good way to wrap up this discussion on what social media platforms make sense for a travel writer is that it's important to keep in mind that the best social media platform for you as a travel writer will often depend on your specific goals and what audience you want to target. As you're starting out, it might be helpful to experiment with the different platforms to see and then find out for yourself which one works best for you. I always joke with friends of mine that it's okay to join TikTok, but don't join it to become a dancer like everyone else. Otherwise, your readers might think that you've either gone crazy or something, or you've been hacked. And when I say this, it also reminds me about the need for us to evolve with these digital platforms. But as we evolve, we should not forget to always remain true to ourselves. This discussion on being true to ourselves perhaps is too early for someone who is just starting out, or call them a budding travel writer. It might be hard for you to really comprehend the need for you to remain true to yourself. But the more you build a brand, the more you do this thing of travel writing, the more you realize the need to be consistent across the platforms. And that's what I'm referring to as being true to yourself. And this also ties into that discussion of the need to find and stick to a niche. And this niche should be consistent across the platforms. It's very confusing for someone to know you as a travel writer if they visit your blog and they find travel content, and then they go to your Twitter feed and it's full of tweets on reproductive health. And when they visit your Instagram, you are talking about crypto. And when they go to TikTok, you are a crazy dancer or comedian. That could be a bit confusing. Now, for serious brands who are looking for travel writers, or call them creatives, to partner with, the serious clients are looking less at how many thousands of followers you have and looking more towards the value and how consistent you are in offering a value in a given niche that they find can offer value to their brand. So maybe in a nutshell, that would be my best and easy way to explain this thing of staying true to yourself. But again, as I said, this is another topic to tackle for those who are just starting out. But it is something that you will get to learn after experimenting and truly finding your unique voice. That importance to choose a niche, and that importance to remain unique, remain true and real to yourself, irrespective of what platform you choose to jump onto. All right, now let's move on to our final tip, which is networking. Networking is key for any career, and travel writing is no exception. It's important to attend industry events and conferences. It's important to join travel writing organizations. It's also important to make connections with other travel writers and industry professionals. By attending industry events, by attending conferences, whether be it physical or virtually, by joining travel writing organizations, and making connections with other travel writers, you are able to learn from their experiences. You are also able to interact with experienced professionals, get their feedback on your writing. You're able to even potentially find new opportunities of getting your work published or even sold as well. And maybe finally, networking will also help you build your reputation as a travel writer, which can be crucial for attracting readers, but also clients as well. When you build these relationships with other professionals, and when you establish yourself as a knowledgeable and respected writer, you can increase your visibility and credibility in the industry, as well as open up fresh opportunities, and that's what we all want. Now, when I talk about networking, I like to always add that even the biggest brands that are well respected, or those that we kind of fear, if I could use that as a phrase in quotes, all these brands are run by people who are real beings like all of us. These people appreciate true connections that offer value to them and the brands they represent. And this also ties into the discussion of when to monetize. And I always tell people that the moment you realize that you are offering value or that you have a voice, don't be scared to reach out and build relationships or pitch yourself to individuals that represent or run the brands that you'd want to work with. I know it's easy to look at a big brand and fear to approach it, but the truth is the wheels and whistles keeping those brands alive are people like me and you. So yes, make sure to build those networks. Now, you know me to always offer some extra juice. So here's a bonus tip, and 7 being the number of perfection, I just thought I'd throw in a 7th tip. So this is tip 7. Tip 7, or call it the bonus tip, is you have to interest yourself in sustainability and responsible travel. In this day and age, with how destructive mankind has been to the planet, and also to our fellow humans, as travel writers, whether we are experienced or budding or just starting out, we've ought to be mindful about the impact the travel can have on the local communities and the environment. Now, this means being respectful of the local customs and cultures when we travel, as well as when we write. It also includes being supportive of local businesses, also minimizing the environmental impact of travel. As travel writers, we have the ability to influence the way that people travel, and we can also promote responsible travel practices. When you write about responsible travel options and highlight the importance of sustainable tourism, you can help educate your readers and encourage them to make more informed and also responsible travel choices. And that's what many travelers want to do today, or many readers want to do today. They want to have a positive impact on the locals. They want to have a positive impact on the environment. When you write for travel, you want to offer them options in which they can be more responsible in their travels. Promoting responsible travel can also help to ensure that the destinations you write about are preserved for the generations to come. And maybe if I could add just one final nugget on responsible travel, the more you genuinely promote responsible travel, to some extent it will help build trust and credibility with your readers, because they will see that you are concerned about the impact of travel, call it tourism, and you are, in your writing, showing that you are committed to promoting sustainable practices. But let me also remind you that it's important to walk the talk. Just writing about it doesn't hit it. You've got to also practice sustainability. Wow. 6, I call them 7 tips for a budding travel writer. So yes, guys, that's going to be it for today. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode on travel writing as much as I did enjoy recording it. Becoming a travel writer takes hard work and dedication, but it can also be incredibly rewarding. If you are passionate about travel writing, then it's definitely worth pursuing. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and hit that like button like we always say, share the link in your circles, and let's get this conversation beyond this platform. And for those that just can't have enough and would like more and more of such conversations, be sure to subscribe to the podcast if you've not already. The podcast is available on all major streaming platforms, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Radio Republic, Pocket Casts, and I believe this particular episode might run on YouTube as well. Well, thank you so much for tuning in to the Travel Writers episode today. If you have any questions or want to share your own tips of becoming a travel writer, be sure to leave a comment below, or you can send me a direct email on contact@jonathanbenaya.com, or you can use ahabenathan@pm.me. Both emails will be linked in the podcast description. And in case you'd like to share some of the travel writing pieces with me, maybe for me to critique them, you can still use the same channels. You can still send me an email, or you could just leave a comment on the podcast. Wait, just before I wind everything up, let me just leave a notice. We will have no episode next Sunday. I'll be on the Christmas break. So Merry Christmas to everyone. I hope you and yours have a lovely, joyous celebration. All right, guys, until next time, happy writing and fun travels.